So like any great conversationalist, I want to start off by talking about me, to be honest with you. So in 2019, I won Reporter of the Year at the UK Esports Awards, and I kind of disappeared in a sense. Went to Esports Insider as the editor, disappeared a bit, and then found myself in the finals in 2020 against some people I don't rate, and then some people I do rate, and Yinsu is one of those people who I do rate. And the only person I'd have been happy losing to last year, so not defending my title as the best in our beloved country, is losing to you. And it happened, even though you seemed to doubt yourself along the way when we were speaking about it. So I just want to ask, how different is your life now that you've won that? Because I know for me, like, I couldn't step outside my flat without paparazzi and stuff, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I was wondering why all those people were outside my flat,
There you go.
honestly.
It's for
Actually,
you.
they did send me the award, but it broke, and I wish you told me that we were going to talk about this because I can actually go get it. It's in the other room, but
Mine's broken just over there as well.
yeah, it snapped. Like, I opened the package and I was trying to put it together, and I was like, oh, I can't figure this out. And Jake, my other half, was just like, you do realize that's just broken. Like, you're not supposed to put it together. That just snapped. But to be honest, I'm gonna be honest about this because I've never publicly, I guess, spoken about how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
Like, honestly, I don't think I should have been nominated this year. I think I should have been nominated last year and the year
Okay.
before. So I
Right.
think 2018 and 2019, I was 2019 more so than 2018. I was definitely super disheartened. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember I spoke to Dom Sacco, who was like, you shouldn't care about that. Like, that's not the thing that you should be caring about.
Yeah.
But I think obviously you being nominated, and I just thought, like, if the way that people viewed you, I wanted people to view me in that way, because I was
Okay.
like, I worked 2019, I think, in terms of UK esport, because ultimately
Yeah.
that's what the award is.
I did nothing for the UK.
2019, I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like I was the only person
Yeah.
that, like, head down pumped so much into the UK.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote a 2-season column for Excel in that first year in the LEC. I got a exclusive from Smooya at ESL1 Cologne. I got also in an interview with Problem X when he won Evo. I had like 2 exclusive at the FIFA E World Cup. Like, I was putting my heart and
Yeah.
soul into journalism for the UK. And obviously, when I didn't get nominated, I was like, oh, that really sucks. And then for 2020, I didn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like, for 2020, I guess it was just like an extension of what I was doing before, but it wasn't UK centric at all. Because
Mm-hmm.
obviously, 2019, I was working for Red Bull UK. So our
Yeah.
entire ethos and direction was elevating UK esports, which I think we did a really good job that year. For 2020, I left Red Bull UK and I sort of branched out and I did a lot of hosting. And my writing probably went down by about 35%, like, in terms of output in
Mm.
comparison to 2019. So I guess for 2020, I was like, well, if I didn't even get nominated when I did that much stuff, there's no way I'm going to win this year. Like, what the hell? Like, that's not going to happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's why I had so much doubt, because I was like, surely if they didn't care about what I did in 2019, is zero justification for me winning it in 2020, given that you were nominated and freaking Richard Lewis was nominated.
Yeah,
So
because
I
the
just
year
went,
before,
it's fine.
who
Yeah.
was it? It was Fortnite BR Live, which was a Twitter account that didn't actually report anything, and like Alicia, who had done nothing as well, but she just like rallied for it on socials. So it just shows that it's more of like a whoever shouts about it the loudest for the most part. In fact, I
Yeah.
never ask for votes. I actually tell people to vote for other people. But and like Jake Hale, love the guy, but like he's writing about TikTok. Like he's not doing anything about UK esports, is he? So he admitted that he loves writing about TikTok more than he likes writing about esports. So
I mean, yeah, so it was a bit confusing, definitely. I think in hindsight, like, I don't think I should have won it in 2019, but I definitely was expecting to be nominated, I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
But
that'll make sense.
it was kind of odd. But as you know, like, awards don't really mean that much.
No.
But I think for people who don't know the industry, it's a Like it's a good like signifier to who that person is. But I
Mhm.
think for people who are actually in the industry, I do wonder how much it means, because I guess in the journalism community, I don't know if it means that much, because
No,
like it doesn't make me think someone's work is any better or worse, whether
no,
they have an award or not.
no.
But I guess players, maybe. I think for players it means a lot. And I do think if you're like winning MVPs, or if you're winning, like, for example, what is it that the esports awards do, like best PC rookie or something? I
Yeah,
know
they do a
that
bunch of that kind of
actually,
stuff.
yeah, I think that has a big weighting, because if you look at how people then treat that player the year after they win, it makes a massive difference, I think.
It feeds into the storylines, which is obviously a big part of
Yeah.
an esport and the broadcasts around it, and how the stories are covered, I guess. Whereas, yeah, no one cares about us really. You know,
Exactly.
but so did you start in sports journalism, right? Because with like
Oh
Sky
gosh.
Sports and such. Because I actually have no idea about this, which is makes me realize, oh, I don't actually know you that well, and I feel bad. I should know you better.
I think the stuff that you know about me, no one else knows about me, and the stuff that you don't know about me, everyone else knows about me.
That's
So it's like
weird. Actually, that's probably true.
yeah, that's real friendship, Adam. But yeah, gosh, it feels like so long ago. But I did film at university. Actually, that's a lie. I did classics at university, and then 2 years through classics, I was like, oh, I don't want to be a like archaeologist. Maybe I can do film, because I really wanted to be like a screenwriter.
Okay.
Did film, was kind of fun, and then classic me. Actually, I didn't really do anything until the last year of my uni. So when I think because I did 5 years, for the first 4 years,
Jesus Christ.
I just did typical uni student. But then on the
Mhm.
5th year, all my friends had graduated by then, so I had enough time to kind of sit and be like, I kind of have to get a degree. Like if I don't get a
Yeah.
degree and I flush 5 years of my life down the toilet, it's a bit kind of silly. So I did a total 360. I went from like being late for every assignment, failing my year, just drinking too much, to like all I was doing was like studying and doing internships and like actually caring about my future.
Mhm.
And it was then I spoke to like quite a lot of people in the TV industry, and they were very candid, and they were like, it's going to be a grind, and I wouldn't expect anything unless you're extremely lucky until you're probably in your late 30s. Like the next 10 years of your life is going to be grind. And me being still a little bit of the old me was like, oh, I don't kind of really want to do that either. Shouldn't I just build up some experience and do what I like for 10 years
Yeah.
and then try and do that again? So my first love, I think, in my life would have been kind of actually no, the second love in my life was film. First love in my life was sport. I was obsessed
Okay.
with sport, always loved sport. Didn't ever think I could really do anything in it though, because I didn't do anything that was remotely related to it. So in my last 2 years of uni, I started like a sport radio show with a bunch of my friends, and I did wrote for the student newspaper, which like if anybody goes to uni, you get me. And then I got an internship for like a website just writing about football for pennies. Like I
Yeah.
was actually quite surprised I didn't do it for free, but it was, I think, £10 an article. Like
No, it's more than some people get in esports
yeah.
now.
But at the time I was like, this is so cool. Like I get to do like 50 articles a month or something stupid like that. And I have so much money, like all this jazz.
Yeah.
And then I did a bit of research and realized you could do like, you know, in law, you can do like a law conversion after
Right.
university. You can do the same in journalism. Pretty much. You just have to do like a 12 months course. I mean, you can do a master's and you can go and study it for 3 years. But I was like, well, if I can do something for 10 months, why am I doing a master's? It makes no sense. So I researched for like the best journalism school in the country and was like, I'm just going to give it a shot. Who knows? I might get in, I might not. It is still very like top end and quite elusive, as in they don't accept that many people every year. Somehow got in. I think it's because like I was too keen. And during all of that, I was playing League of Legends, like there's no tomorrow. But
Right.
again, and I was watching a lot of competitive, but I never thought I would work in it because I didn't realize you could work in it. I just thought it was a very niche, small thing. which definitely wasn't at the time. And anyway, did my journalism conversion, and during my conversion I was like, oh, maybe I could do esports, because like I'm watching a lot of stuff. I remember I spoke to Colin from Fnatic at the time. Oh no, that was a bit later, but I spoke to some Fnatic people and I was like, this is like an actual thing. People do this. This is crazy. And I think around the similar time, I sort of discovered Thorin and Richard Lewis, and I was like, oh my god, like I don't want to call them old, but in my head I was like, oh, so older
they're old
people.
as fuck, yeah.
I'm like, older people in this, so it's not just for kids and it's not just for inexperienced people. Like, holy shit, this is a real thing. But I wasn't convinced. So after I got my qualifications, by the way, gold standard. So like I'm actually,
you're just showing off all over the shop here.
I'm
Jesus.
hella educated when it comes to journalism.
I'm not educated by any means besides a book.
I know how not to get sued. I was really proud of getting my law module. Funny enough, I failed my sport module, but we won't get into that. And I then very quickly got a position at the British Olympic Association. Yeah, as you do. And I was doing video stuff for them. So I was like shooting, editing, and then I did a bunch of social media stuff during the Winter Olympics, which was super hype. And then around the similar time, I also got an opportunity to start at Sky. And that for me, actually just before that, I did football reporting at Millwall for a while.
Okay, that would be interesting.
It was really fun. Like, I never saw anything bad. They were really nice to us. Like, yeah, it's weird because I understand the fans aren't the best, but the club itself was anything but like hooliganism. They were super nice and accommodating. I have a special place in my heart for Millwall, and mainly because I hate West Ham so much. But anyway, so I then got my position at Sky. I was like, I got my dream job. I'm just gonna stay here and become like a producer or something. It's gonna be sick. But then nobody was writing about esports at Sky, and it just happened that on my first day there, Faceit had announced the London Major.
Oh, right. Okay.
I was really into CS:GO at the time as well, but I wasn't very good at playing it. I just liked like the competitive side.
So this is probably is this like early 2018ish then?
Yeah, it must be, or maybe earlier than that.
Yeah,
might be late 2017. I can't remember.
Right.
But I was like, oh my gosh, like that's so cool. And then my editor at Sky was like, oh, you know what this is? Because it was a press release in the inbox. And I was like, yeah, this is sick. Like, I didn't realize it was going to be a London Major. That's going to be amazing. And he was like, oh, why don't you just write it up? Like, we don't have anybody that does esports here. Like, if you know what you're talking about, just write it up. The reason they wanted me to write it up is because Sky had a deal with Faceit to stream the major on their YouTube channel. So they had an obligation to write about it. And I think it would have been like a short straw situation. Someone had to do it, but I was so keen about it. They were like, yeah, go for it. And then I started just basically covering esports for them. And it was good because I could do whatever I want. I basically
tell you, no, that's not the best way to do it.
Exactly. So I'd be like, oh, this is a really cool thing to cover. And they'll be like, yeah, go for it. Like, we trust you. So from there, I did like Worlds for League of Legends. I think I did MSI as well. And then I did a whole bunch of stuff. It was super exciting. But it wasn't really fulfilling. I think that's a good way of putting it. I think it just wasn't fulfilling. And I think it got to a point when I was doing so many interviews about very similar things that I had like deja vu. Like, I swear I've written this specific storyline before, like, the rookie who's moved to a new country that can't speak English, integrate into that team, either does super well or does super terrible, and they have to deal with the pressure. Like, you know what I mean? So after a while I was like, oh, it's just getting a bit repetitive. I wish I could, because I'm not under any illusion that people were giving me stories because who I worked for, not because what I had to write about, what I had to say, and what my skill set was. I think that still happens today. I'm not gonna lie about that. I think some people like to think the opposite, and sometimes it annoys me because I don't understand the ego. I don't understand the ego of like, oh, I got this exclusive story and you didn't. Well, that's
Oh
because
no, I
you
love
work.
a bit of that.
But I'm like, but that's because you work for. Okay, I'm just gonna make up somewhere out. That's
Yeah.
because you work for like the Telegraph. Like, of course you're gonna get like your mainstream print media, something that esports feel like they need.
Yeah.
And I don't mind people being proud of themselves, but when it gets to a point where they start abusing that like power and they start making other people feel bad, I'm like, all right, calm down. Like, you're not freaking go freelance for an esports website and see how many stories and exclusives you get. So just chill out. I think that's what annoyed me, and I would never be the kind of person that is not kind of like understanding and admitting to the fact that I've definitely gotten more access than other people because the name on my badge.
Such, yeah.
100%. Like, there's no point not admitting that. But anyway, so I think I like build up enough stuff from Sky that when I saw Tom East, at the time the editor of Red Bull UK, was looking for like an esports correspondent, a freelance position, I was like, oh, that suits me perfectly, because I was doing 4 days a week at Sky. So I was like, oh, I have 3 days where I can do Red Bull. That's like the dream, which isn't the dream for some people.
No days off, by the way, in that.
Yeah. So 7 days for me at the time, I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I'm going to get so much done. It's going to be so fun, which it was actually. Like, I genuinely have zero complaints about that. And then moving to Red Bull was really the first time I opened my eyes to what esports was, because I didn't really have any friends at Sky who like knew esports, and I didn't have any esports friends like or anybody to speak to about this. I felt quite like I was just trying different things and seeing what worked and what didn't. Whereas when I got to Red Bull UK, they had like strategies, they had contacts, they had video content, they put on tournaments, they had the gaming sphere and so on. So that was the first time I was like, holy moly, this like industry is huge, and there's so many different roles and jobs and people, and there's people like me who's coming into, and there's people who've basically gotten into it when they're like 16, which I wish I did. I wish I had that clarity, like some people who are in the industry now, because I really commend that. But yeah, so one thing led to another. I kind of just snowballed a little bit, and then I'm now at a point where I have put a pause on the sports side of things. I think I'm still like a fan, and I'm still really interested, and I still do believe one day I will go back to it. But I do think, like, no offense to football and stuff like that, I think it's well developed enough that it's going to be there. Whereas I think things are happening in this industry, it's going to be even more difficult to get into, because coming from sport, I know how hard it was. Like, if you want to be a presenter on Sky, it takes years, and you have to be super lucky. BBC the same, and people would say like, oh, it's so hard to be a professional footballer, it's impossible to like actually get there. But if you look at esports, there's more. I think I read this stat, there's like more casual gamers than any other like sports in the world, but there's less professional gamers than any other sport. So there's like more professional footballers than there are professional gamers, like in terms of the ratio of people who actually play games and people who become pros. And I do think it might even get to that stage for talent. It might even get to that stage for like whatever else. So I don't think this is something that can wait. And this is something that I've really grown to love. So I'm going to pause the sport thing for now. But I'm sure if we speak like this again in 10 years' time, I'll be like, yeah, I'm done with esports now. I'm going to go back to football.
Oh, I'll be way out of esports by then, mate. In 10 years, I don't even know what I'll be doing, but I can't imagine it's the same thing I'll be doing now, put it that way. If it is that, if I'm still doing this in 10 years, have a real word with me, all right, while you're presenting on Sky and stuff, I'll tell you that.
All right, I'll remember that. I actually will remember that. Yeah.
But in terms of like, well, we discuss a lot, I guess among ourselves, maybe not us too specifically, but like journalists in esports, from what I can tell, at least in my experience, about like the standard of esports journalism versus other industries. And so you've been around like the sports industry and journalism in there. Like, are there any like glaring differences or similarities between the two? Because I think there are some elements of esports journalism where we're doing really well. And then I think there are some where it's pretty fucking awful, where we just get the same interview 6 times across 6 different publications in like League of Legends, for example. And I say that I've never seen anyone else ever call that out besides me, by the way, but I see it. And I'm not even a League of Legends fan like that, really. So like, I'm just wondering if like you think there are like major parallels between the two, because I don't think sports and esports are actually really that related, despite the name?
I'm about to be very controversial.
Good. Join me on
people,
this ledge.
people might hate me for this, and I can understand if people hate me for this, but this is just my opinion. And I'm not upset about the fact that my opinion is not like what's happening right now.
Good.
Is what I feel like would benefit the scene. Again, I'm not shading anybody. I'm not like subtweeting in my. How do you
Oh,
say
come
that?
on.
Like,
Just get it over and done with. Come on. We can clean it up afterwards.
Yeah, but I need to preface, because after my recent quote unquote scandal, I have to
Fuck red people.
really like be very specific about what I'm about to say. So I think there are too many opportunities. So what I mean
In
by that,
esports, journalism.
yes. What I mean by that is when I go to a press conference for football, for example, Millwall, when I go to a press conference, and even more than that, even if it's for like something huge, so like when Antonio Conte first signed for Chelsea, I was at that press conference. You will never see that. You will never see the amount of people I see in an LEC press room than I see at a football World Cup final press conference, because I feel like this is really shitty for me to say, because I've been in a position where my work wasn't getting read or anything, but everything is so diluted. For example, Worlds this year was remote, and I thought it was fantastic, and I was really impressed with how they managed to put an event on and coordinate interviews and stuff. Like, it actually blew my mind to a point. I feel like it might actually be like the future to a degree, but because it was remote, I'd say 50%, maybe more, 60% of the people in that press room wouldn't normally have gone to Worlds. I'm not here to gatekeep and say who deserves to go and who doesn't. But the issue is we need quality control, like to an extent. And if you are going to be a person that's going to get an interview, one-on-one interview, which by the way is really scarce in esports anyway, if you're in a position where you're going to get a one-on-one interview with one of the top players in the world, and you getting that interview, meaning someone else will miss out. And the person that misses out might be someone who's more experienced, might be working for a bigger publication, might have a better editor, might have more resources and so on, which I know is unfair, but like kind of is the world, the way the world is. I'm expecting that interview to be just as good as the person that missed out, if not better, because like, I don't want to read, like, if, again, I'm making the football analogy, but like, I don't want to read an interview with Wilfried Zaha where it's crap, you know, like I don't want that content there. And the reason that content doesn't exist is because Wilfried Zaha does 3 interviews, maybe. He's not going to do or maybe actually on broadcast, Wilfried Zaha does 1 interview with the broadcast, like sort of rights owner. And then after that, he'll do a press conference with 5 people.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because I'm not then reading 25 interviews with Wilfried Zaha where 20 of them are crap. And I'm not saying anyone's work is crap, but at the moment, the access is so high. Like, there's so much access to every single player and to every single team. I think that's when what you kind of briefly said earlier, that you're reading 6 of the same interview. You just are. But I'm kind of on the fence about this because I don't want to limit other people's opportunity. But there is a reason why that in football, like the Metro, Evening Standard, Telegraph, Mail, and The Sun are the only newspapers that get interviews. I don't want to miss anyone out. Maybe like the Daily Star or something. I don't know. But there's a reason why, like in London, if you're going to a London press conference, like those people will be there, and you will never have some random freelancer just turn up. Like that just will not happen. That club is not going to give you access to a press conference when you're just a random freelancer, because they don't know you, they don't know who you're writing for, and they don't know if giving you that access is actually benefiting their club and players and so on. So I feel like that is such a big difference, a huge difference.
It sounds archaic though, the sports model. As you're saying it like that.
Yeah, it 100% does. I think,
and it is
really
a massive
old-fashioned
gatekeeping scenario.
Yeah, which is why I would not be here telling you like who deserves to do it, who doesn't. But I do think like there should be a threshold. There should be like, instead of anyone who wants to write anything is allowed, it should be like, well, we should have a standard whether that's really low or really high, but like everybody needs to meet it. I need to meet it. You need to meet it, not just like people who are already established. Because even if you're already established and you don't meet that kind of standard, I don't think you deserve to have that opportunity.
So you think we've like reached like a level of oversaturation, and thus
100%.
that devalues all of it because there's just too much of it. So like they'd be more valuable if it was limited. And actually, I think it's probably symptomatic. It's probably where esports just is right now, because monetization is hard.
And we need it right now. Like we need the reach right now. We need it.
Exactly that. You need like your brand or one of your players, whatever it may be, to be absolutely everywhere as much as possible, because like there's too much like dominating like the attention war right now on Twitter. An interview comes and goes instantly. So you'll make more of a bang if you have 25 interviews going out for your event rather than like 4. You know,
I agree.
We don't have too many huge publications in esports right now anyway.
That's why I said what I'm saying is controversial, because like I don't know the solution, but it's not just content, it's professionalism as well, because I have seen things that happen in press rooms that I think if I did in a sports like context, I would be banned from that football club 100%, like insta banned. People do get banned from football clubs, especially if you work for the Sun, like it does happen. 2, I would lose my job. Like the amount of things I've seen, like I don't want to name anything, but I've literally seen someone wear like someone interview a League of Legends team. I'm just gonna like give an example. I'm not naming the right teams. I'm just gonna like hypothetically, right? So I've seen someone wear like a Fnatic shirt interviewing G2 players right after G2 lost to Fnatic. I've literally seen that happen, and it's baffling to me, because if I'm turning up at Brighton wearing a Palace shirt right after Brighton loses, you betcha that player is going to tell me go fuck myself, and I'll be banned for life, like literally. You just don't do that.
I think that made me more think of like inherent bias in journalism, more so than like pissing a player off. That don't bother me, but it's like you're showing a bias towards a team, and that's part of it, because there's no barrier to entry in esports. Like you can start a blog and you're basically there, right? And the good thing and the really bad thing about the internet is it creates like an open market, basically, whereas like you can't really limit the access to somebody. Like it's up to them to limit it for themselves. So like if I just start a YouTube channel now or a blog right now and I reach out to 50 Call of Duty players, one of them's going to get back to me and I'm going to get an interview there. Like I don't have to go through any sort of channels to actually set that up.
Exactly.
Which is a really good thing, but also a really bad thing.
It's a really beautiful thing. And I think that's something that I love, because without that, most people that we like, myself included, probably wouldn't have an opportunity. But which is why I feel so bad of thinking like this. But
are you saying I shouldn't have a career right now?
Want to go?
I agree, to be honest with you.
But it just makes me feel awful, because I know that's an opinion that I hold, and I definitely don't want to be the kind of person that gatekeeps. But having come from such a harsh environment like sport, and where I see it pay off and I see the reasoning for some of the things that is in place, it's hard for me not to imagine what it would look like if we had that kind of scenario. But you're completely right, because at the moment that benefits teams, that benefits tournament organizers, and it benefits people that want to get in. And I'd rather have someone have a way to get in and who's like a hidden gem than for that person never get opportunity. But having said that, like I think it was like over 150 press at Worlds. Or something crazy like that. And obviously, like I think Worlds is an event that deserves the coverage, but I also wonder how Worlds would look like if it didn't have it to that extent. Like would people not care about Worlds anymore?
That's not the
but
case.
Again, I don't have a solution, but I would just like to see less people in a press freaking room ask for autographs. The amount of times
I've never seen that, fortunately.
At ESL1 Katowice, I was with Kenny S and Nexa, I believe, and people were coming like right after my interview with them. People like stormed them for autographs, and I didn't say anything, but in the back of my mind I was like, yo, you guys don't have to say yes. Like you're in a press room, you're not at a fan meet, you don't have to sign stuff in a press room. But it really baffled me, because it was at least 10 people that did this, and I was like, if I could never get away with that in any other scenario.
It's just not. It's not our jobs to be fans. There, we're. No. That's the thing, though. I think I put out a tweet about this not too long ago, actually, where I was like, a lot of the journalists and content creators in esports right now are more like Eminem's stan, in like they're fanatical about the games they're in or certain players, whatever it may be. And thus they get into it because they're really interested in it, which is cool. But like, they're not fussed about like the actual like journalism aspect of it. They're fussed to like being able to get this access, this like exclusive access to people and fulfill their need to feel connected and close with them. So that's when you get people who are doing that. They should pick up an understanding journalism book, you know. Actually, this has got you can see where it's actually from a library and it got reset.
Oh my god, you nicked it.
I know, I've never been to a library in my life. But you know,
I think
also means like you don't have to have any certain standard. There's like no level of experience needed. There's like, you don't have to prove yourself. It's just, you just have to have the balls to reach out to somebody. And look, like that's the easiest thing to do in the world, in the internet. So that is a bad thing.
Maybe the way we solve it is actual like repercussions, because there's zero repercussions right now if you interview a player in a literal opposition's rivalry shirt right after they lose. Like, players don't tell you to fuck off. And honestly, the Brighton women's manager told me to fuck off once. Sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this channel.
Of course, it's me.
They lost like 11-0, right? And then I was like, what is the one thing? Because there's a lot that you guys need to work on, but like, what is the biggest thing you need to work on? Because losing 11-0 is like bad. She just told me to fuck off. So I was like, I asked like a relatively tame question, I thought. But I do think there's repercussions to that. Like, if I were to do that, like I said, if I were to rock up a Man City in a Man United shirt, I would get fired and I would literally get banned. But if you rock up to Worlds and ask every single player you interview to sign all of your shirts and all that stuff, like, it's
as press,
fine.
No,
but nobody gets punished.
You're not there for that shit.
But no one gets punished. So people can't learn that that's not okay. People don't really understand how to be professional in that sense. But having said that, like, on the other side, I've seen people with like outstanding professionalism that I've really been inspired by, and I've really been impressed with.
Oh, thank you so much. I know you're talking about me there, by the way. Even though we've never actually been to like an event together like that, I don't think.
Were you not at CDL London?
Wait, were you at CDL London?
Yeah.
Oh, I think I might have been at the previous year's one. I can't remember you there.
Oh, I was with Nathan. I went there with Nathan. But I did some interviews and stuff. I think I interviewed Zuma and someone else. I can't remember.
I was there when Nathan was there.
Yeah, I was with Nathan the whole time.
I didn't see you once. He was floating about.
Because I just
had his team there, Radiant or whatever.
Yeah, that's what I did. I just like pointed everywhere and being like, that could be Radiant in 2 years. And yeah, it's not.
Oh shit.
But yeah,
I feel bad now.
I like the camaraderie as well. I really like the camaraderie in some of the esports stuff. Like, as a talent, as a very recent talent, and I wouldn't really even call myself a talent, as a newbie, as a rookie, I don't really feel that camaraderie very much yet. It's kind of scary, but I definitely,
like an outsider.
100%. But in journalism, like with you know, Dom, like everyone else in the UK as well, not just UK, but internationally, like Adele, I love Adele so much. And I do feel the camaraderie, like whenever I go to press rooms, and it's not just your fakey like, oh my God, hi. It's like genuine, like, talks and people who actually want you to do well and stuff. I think that I didn't feel that in sport at all.
Right.
But in esports, I think I really like that. And I really like people not being afraid of promoting other people's stuff. Like, I know some companies don't like that. Like, you're not supposed to, for example, like if you work for Dot, I don't think you can sit there and be like, oh, Tuxedo did like an Unreal article. But I do think journalists still do that.
Oh, I 100% would.
Yeah,
I wouldn't even think about it. It wouldn't even be a thought that enters my mind. It's just like, look, like, do we really need to be this petty? Like, at the end
exactly.
How much traffic is that going to send to your website? And look, they could do it back to us one day. So like, it returns the favor. Like, it's
I mean, to be fair,
bullshit there.
To be fair, if you tweet something at him, it's going to get bare traffic. So you have to use
definitely
your power
not even my
responsibly.
Videos to get a bare traffic right to them out. But so you mentioned like recently becoming like a broadcast talent, and I want to get into something I've realized and something you've done really well, and I want to know if it's on purpose or not, because it may not be, right? But like the diversification that you've done across like written work and then video work, and now expanding into being a host, and you can do all those three things simultaneously. Like, you can be working an event as a host, and then be in your hotel, and then like okay, I can record a quick video. Oh, I need to write this article, blah, blah, blah. Like you can do all three of those things, right? And say you lose a writing gig, a freelance writing gig. You've still got your video work and your like broadcast talent work still there, right? So that's a bit more of a safety net than someone who's just writing all the time. And say if like I'm writing for 2 websites or something, if I as a freelancer, if I lose one of those gigs, I'm normally pretty fucked unless it's stacked on one side, right? So was that on purpose, or have you just been kind of finding the things that interest you and following them? Because that's a theme I get from early on where you were discussing how you came up and got into journalism. It's just kind of you found what interested you and just went for it that way. So I mean, I'm interested in that process.
I'm very stubborn, and I like and I get bored super easily. Honestly, you can ask Jake about this. Living with me, he's had serious nightmares about living with me because I get so bored all the time. And like, I just need to, and I'm a serial workaholic, which I know isn't very healthy.
No, I do not promote this.
Yeah, I don't either. I don't either, but I suffer a lot from anxiety, which people don't see or understand.
I've never seen that.
Exactly.
You must get well.
Yeah, and no, the thing is, I don't suffer from social anxiety. I don't know how to call it, but I suffer from very like retrospective, and also retrospective is probably the worst one. As in, I will lie awake in bed, losing sleep for weeks on end if I said something like wrong in an interview.
That's interesting because anxiety is normally like thinking of the future. It's like fear of the future, right?
Exactly. That's what my therapist told me. She was like, "You're such an interesting." Yeah, no, I'm super open about therapy as well. I think everybody should have a therapist because like you go to the gym, right, to train your body. Yeah. So why shouldn't you go to a therapist to look after your mental health? 100%. Huge advocate. But shout out to the NHS, big up with the NHS because you can get it for free in the UK, but it is like a 10-week wait, which is kind of annoying. But really, really, really big fan of therapy. But that's what she told me as well. She was like, yeah, and you're not anxious about the future. I'm like, I'm only anxious about the future if it's something directly relating to my past. So I'm never really anxious about the future if it's like just sitting around or waiting for something. I don't get anxious. But for example, like if I said something to someone one time that I thought was a bit mean or that I made a mistake, if I know I'm going to see that person for like the next 2 weeks, I cannot leave my house. Like I won't leave my bed. Like I just get so crippling anxious about the prospect of facing my mistakes. It's really awful. Which is why like everything that happened at First Strike really
that's why you had the first opportunity you could to clear it up.
Yeah, like it affected me.
45-minute video. You like
apologizing
and breaking things down, right?
It's still affecting me now, honestly. Even now, like, because I'm going back into hosting again, and even now I'm like so scared, like unbelievably scared, and I just feel so bad. Like I also cry all the time. I'm very emotional, so when I get into a stage where I'm like anxious about something and I can't get out of it, I'm just crying all the time. And like
I'd never guess that about you either.
I know, but like I said, I don't have social anxiety. I don't I don't even get nervous now going on stage. Like I'm completely fine, which is probably why I can do it like without caring too much about it. But also, like when it comes to people just being sexist and racist and stuff, I take it really hard, like really, really, really hard, because it's like not something I can change. So if someone's like, your presenting was so boring, you're like literally as stiff as a dry wall, like I was unwatchable, I can go back and watch that video and be like, actually this part I can maybe be more expressive, or this part I wasn't eloquent enough, or this part I can maybe like change up how I deliver my lines. I never get offended by those. Like I'm cool with it. Even when people literally say like you're the doggest thing to ever walk the face of the earth, I'm like, oh, maybe like there's a reason why they feel that way. But when people target like my looks, specifically like ethnicity or gender, I take it really to heart, because I'm like, oh, I can't do anything about that. Like
that like obviously I'm the epitome of like that. I don't get that stuff because I'm a white bald white man, like straight, like I'm just the most generic guy there is. But like that does surprise me, because I think like if obviously people react to things in different ways or whatever, and I'm too logical in my way. I actually lack emotion, which is something I'm trying to work on, right? But if it's something you can't change, like if it was me, if someone was taking a piss at something I can't change, I'd be like, well, there's nothing I can do about that, so why am I going to let that bother me? But like I've never had to face that really. So I can't relate, and maybe it would be different if people started like taking a piss out of my bald head or like my you know.
I mean, you're always wearing a hat. No one knows. Like, it's a secret.
It exists.
Yeah. You're right though, because like logically, if I'm being very stoic about it, I think that is almost easier to not care, because it's like, I can't change, go fuck yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
But when I see loads of people doing it, I'm like, oh wow, like, so people aren't even caring or seeing what I'm physically putting out, my content or the work I'm doing. All they care about is that they don't want someone that looks like me to be on their screens.
Which
like,
is
that's
ridiculous.
so shit. Like, honestly, like, even at first stroke, I was like, oh my gosh, should I just give up and go home? And Jake was like, don't be stupid. Like, that's insane. Like, why would you
let
go
them
home
win
because of that? Exactly. But to me, I was just like, oh, well, I don't want to, I understand I'm not going to please everybody or make everyone happy, but I just wish people can really criticize me, because there's so many things to criticize me for that I'm like, yo, tell me that I messed up, or this line, or tell me that I was biased or unfair, or any of that stuff. Like, go for it. But when you start literally saying stuff, like, I got some horrific things, like very deep horrific things, and I was just like, well, like, why do what someone literally said to me, like, this is why women deserve to be raped. They like, yeah, they linked me like one of the clips that I said that of me, and was like, you're the reason why women get raped. And I was like,
they're just going for the shock factor, trying to upset you at that point, right?
But if you send me that clip and go, you are literally you have the boringest voice in the world, I'll be like, oh fuck, like, this person is a bit of a knob, but let me just watch this and see like if what I can do. Sorry, this is a huge detour to the question you asked.
It's fine, I was gonna go back to it.
But I think to do with my anxiety, I have very bad anxiety when I'm not occupied. So if I'm not gaming, or if I'm not writing, or if I'm not working or writing scripts or presenting, or like even looking for work, I get super anxious, because I'm like, I'm not doing enough to satisfy myself. So I'm like, are you fulfilled right now? No. Why are you not fulfilled? Well, it's because you're sat on your ass doing nothing. So please go find something that stimulates you. So originally I actually wanted to be a radio host. When I was at uni, I was like, oh, I can get into sports radio and maybe be like a radio presenter in sport. But I never got an opportunity to do that. I actually wouldn't even know where to begin to do that. So as I got into esports, like, everybody loves this podcast format. It really works. Actually, it works for some people, it doesn't work for others. I've seen it both ways. But of course, there's like presenter content, and then there's the whole broadcasting, which is the broadcast aspect is so similar to sport anyway. So for me, I was like, oh, like, all this stuff looks really fun. I want to try it, see if I'm any good. And the more I did it, the more I realized that I enjoy telling stories, and I enjoy being someone that can tell stories, whether that's through my writing, or whether that's through a report, or whether that's through an interview or hosting. I feel like the storytelling element is what I love so much. And I think, again, my passion in film, my passion in sport, I think the underlying thing for me in all of those areas is storytelling. Because like, I wanted to be a screenwriter precisely to write stories, and I wanted to be a sports reporter precisely to tell stories. So actually doing the hosting for Riot opened my eyes so much, because at Riot, they don't expect to just stick a script in front of you and just read, which some of my job is like kind of like that. But I write the script 99% of the time anyway. So I have like creative input and I get to tell the stories. But at Riot, at First Strike, it was pretty much like storyboard meeting with all the talent. You guys tell us what you want the broadcast to look like, and you guys write the stories, and you guys have to be flexible and on your feet enough that if any of the narratives change, you have to make the new story and the new narrative equally encapsulating the interesting stuff. And I love being under pressure. This sounds really bad, but like, I always liked exams and stuff. Like, I did better in exams than I did in my essays always, like during time, because I had too much time to do those. I didn't care. But being under pressure, being like, oh no, this team that wasn't supposed to win now won, and we haven't prepped anything for this scenario. You've literally got 5 minutes in your break, the three of you on the panel, to work out to fill a 10-minute airtime next. Or this person canceled their interview. They didn't want to do an interview on broadcast. So we've got this person instead. You've got 30 seconds to come up with the questions to fill the next 5 minutes. And I love it. I'm sitting there like, oh, this is my time to shine. Like, yes, let's get it. Let's go. So that for me was something that I really, really loved. But I get the same feeling with writing as well. I get the same feeling of like a player gives you like a really unexpected answer. And I'm sat here like, oh no, I need to probe this. Like, this is not what people would expect. How do I turn this into a story? I'm already thinking about my like structure and draft for later and being like, oh, I'm gonna bait them a little bit to say more. Again, same as like presenting. So all of these kind of like multimedia stuff give me a very similar feeling, and I find of course like different level of happiness and fulfillment with those.
Right.
I never want to give up writing. Like, I will say it up front, even if I have to dedicate full time into something like hosting, I would hate to be in a position where I can't be writing anymore. I just like 2020, like I said, my output dropped a lot and I felt it. I felt like because my output dropped a lot, when I did get to do writing, I definitely put more of my time and attention to it, because I felt like I'm only writing one article this week. Like, I need to make it at least good, or I make it interesting somehow. So I guess for me, maybe in the future I have to focus on just one. But for now, I wouldn't like to drop any of them really. But
well, there's a mutual friend of ours who I can't name, but they had to basically give up writing for a job they went into, and they seem very unfulfilled.
Of course.
I love exposing shit, right? But like, out of respect for this person, I will not do it. But like,
that actually broke me a little, because that person was getting to a point where I thought they were getting the recognition that they were finally deserving at the point that they decided to switch. And it really upset me, because not many other people were doing what they were doing at the time, in my opinion.
And definitely not that well. That's the thing, is a lot of people doing a lot of things in our industry, and maybe not too many of them doing it well. And that, I think that
me included,
is across. Right, you know you're doing well. Get the fuck out. You're not allowed to be self-deprecating anymore.
No, I'm not. I'm not self-deprecating. I think I'm definitely. I love flexing when I know I deserve to flex, but
I've noticed
like,
that.
I also love VOD reviewing in all of my work. And when I VOD review, I get so down, because I'm like, why didn't you do this? Because like, I'm like, why didn't you do? Because I know what I need to do, but I just don't do it, or I fail at something when I'm reviewing all my stuff. Which, by the way, whenever anyone asks me like, what's the best thing you can do in not just like journalism, I guess even like as a player or as anyone, is I would say is to constantly review yourself. Like, not you have to do it every day, but even at the end of the month, you pick like 3 things that you did what you thought was sick, read over it, review it, and then think about another way that you could have done it. It's so helpful. But lately when I do that, I just end up feeling like, oh shit, like, why didn't I think of doing X, Y, and Z before? Oh, I ruined.
Well, you can only connect the dots going backwards in hindsight, right? Like, so you're always going to get to that point. You're not going to necessarily see the best way of doing things until you've gone through it and have a better understanding. That's always going to be the case. So I think, like, especially like a creative vocation, like, you're never going to actually reach a point where you're satisfied and like you think you're doing like perfect work. So that's why I just bang things out instantly. It's just like, look, a little bit of insight here. I do like a weekly column for Deserto on like Fridays.
I read it.
That's bullshit, but
no, I literally read it.
Okay,
wait, the most recent one was the it might not be most recent, but it's the Can Esports Fans Be Fans? Is that the most recent one?
Esports fans don't exist, just a flashy title, but so the thing is, there, the more time I spend like preparing and like, oh, this is going to be my best one, like I'm going to put all this research into it, like, it just doesn't land. But so for the past, I think, month, I've been giving myself like 45 minutes to an hour to write like a full piece. Like, think of the idea as well. So like, I start at like 5 p.m. I don't even know what I'm going to write. I have to get that approved by the powers that be at Deserto, and then I bang out like 1,000 words. Like, I just go into I black out, and then it's like, when I'm done, it's almost 6, and then I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to read through this. I get it proofed, subbed by somebody quickly. I bang it out, and the more I do that, and the less I give a shit and really try to overthink things and plan things, the better they go in terms of reception at the moment. And I'm trying to like distill a message or like some wisdom from that, and I don't quite have it yet. But I just think like in our jobs, like we spend too much time trying to iterate all the time and make it perfect, and then you kind of lose the essence of what you're trying to say because you're manufacturing something, and then like the fear of being perfect will stop you doing anything. So I just bang stuff out like this series that we're recording now wasn't a series, it's a standalone thing. Because Jake Lucky said, "Oh, I can record today," when I asked him if he wanted to chat, and I was like, "Okay, let's do it." And then I wanted to chat with someone else, so I just did it.
You mean
I
you
just
asked Jake Lucky before you asked me?
Only by like a week. No, the thing is that he's an interesting case because he's a character 100% of the time when he's online. Nobody actually knows anything about him, but everyone likes him well, you either love him or you hate him, but the people that like him love him without actually knowing anything about him.
You know, for the longest time, I thought his name was a pseudonym. I genuinely thought he chose Jake Lucky as like a IGN, like it's not actually his real name.
It's not his real name.
So I was right.
Yes. I think I might be the only person in the industry besides his employees who know his real name.
Okay, well, I just, even when I first saw him, I was like, yeah, that's the pseudonym. That's not that's not him. Like, that's just like a pseudonym. But I'm so glad I was right because I spoke to someone else about this. They were like, no, that's his name. I'm like, are you sure?
Unless he like ultra trolled me, but I can tell you after this, but I can't. The situation. No, not his name, but the situation.
Yeah. I see. Yeah. But I think going back to what you said, I think there's a difference between being like organized and confident, and there's a difference between overthinking. And I do think, like you said, overthinking is bad. And I do too much of it, like in hindsight. Like I like to prepare. I am the kind of person that has a plan for a plan for a plan. But yeah, it's very time consuming. But usually once I execute stuff, I don't really overthink at all, but it's the hindsight part. Like I said, I don't really have anxieties about doing things or the future. But once I sit down, I'm alone, I'm like in bed or something, and my mind goes wild. That's when I like can't sleep, and I'm lying there like, oh, I'm just like, what have I done? Honestly, the amount of times like I moan about stuff to Jake because obviously we're in the same industry, and I'm like, oh, that wasn't good, or this was like that and this, and he was like, you do realize you're the only person that cares, like no one else cares about what you've done.
Nobody thinks about us as much as we think. Like a lot of people like are shit at being themselves, so how are we going to let them judge us? Like fuck, obviously that's a bit harsh and a bit controversial maybe, but I stand by that. A lot of people aren't attached to the theory of trying to bet themselves every day. Like obviously you like live by that. I can tell what you're doing just in your work, but like your work's like almost everything to it seems. Same as where I'm at. Like, and there's a lot of people who are just blissfully ignorant and just going through life in the content, and more power to them, because I think like being content is obviously the end goal. You want to like be like, oh, I'm happy with what I've done. And it's a gift and a curse to be the kind of person where it's like, I will never be satisfied with anything I've ever done.
You know, that's my biggest fear. That's I have two big fears. One is whales, not the country, the animal. Because when I say this, people, I have to preface. That
was like a Thorin Poland kind of scenario then, where you just offend the whole country.
It's a genuine fear though, because they're massive, and I don't like the deep ocean that much. And I like whales as an animal, but I'm really terrified of them. Like I can't even look at photos of them without feeling a bit ill. And two is the fear of never being satisfied. Like I genuinely think I would hate to get to a point when I'm still like, I've done enough, but in my mind I'm like, but it's not. And I think a lot of pro players also get into that kind of almost of like a wheel of, oh, I'm winning, but it's not enough, but there's nothing more than that. It's just like you can't win any more than you already win. So I mean, luckily I have a very, very steep mountain to climb still, and I'm really excited for it. But I'm very, very, very unaware of where like the peak of that mountain is. So which is why I think I can relate to a lot of like athletes where when they feel that way too. Not saying that I'm an athlete by any means, but I am sick on the Ring Fit on the Switch. So
oh really?
If that becomes like an actual like game where you can play online, I would be, oh my god, I'm like level 110 on the Ring Fit. I think I'm actually
is that good?
I think so.
I no I'll be honest with you, I don't own a Switch, so I don't even play games. I don't play games.
Do you own a
So,
PC?
I'm on a laptop.
Okay. Do you play games on your laptop?
No. I play chess on breaks,
Oh,
and that's
okay.
it. And that's
Are you
it. But
good?
like, I don't play video game. Not really. I've only been doing it for the past month or so. But
Yeah.
and
I love chess. I'm really bad at it, but it's like I really enjoy it. Yeah, it's
I'd
quite
give
zen.
some people in esports a run for the money, except for Tactical Rab, because he's got a ridiculous rating I hear. But like, no, I was around it so much, and it kind of like, you go on Twitter for like what used to be a personal reason. Now it's like I'm looking for stories all the time, and the only people I follow are people in the industry, so you're naturally switched on there. I work obviously, so I'm switched on there, and then anything else I do, I used to just like, okay, I play a game, but like I want to try and be good at it. And I just found myself getting massively burnt out, and it made me actually like resent the work I was doing when I was at Esports Insider. I'd say like the second half of my first year as the editor, well, my only year as the editor of Esports Insider, I hated what I was doing. And it was part environment, but nothing really on the fault of ESI. It was just how it was. It didn't really sit with me well anymore. And part just what I was doing day in, day out. So I had to change that. So I sold my PS4, and I don't play games anymore. I just now found like a good work-life balance, which I think is needed for a lot more people in the industry, including yourself, it sounds like, because like you need time to just chill. Like that's the thing.
But this is what I mean. Like I
Decompress.
even have time allocated for chill time. So actually,
Same.
it's funny because I just started knitting. I'm knitting now.
Oh shit, good. I'm glad to see you're not just switched on all the time.
I'm actually sick of knitting. But when I'm knitting, I'm listening to like esports podcasts and stuff, which is
Oh
not
right.
so I have an hour a day, not a day, 5 hours a week chess, 5 hours a week knitting, 5 hours a week piano, and 2 hours a week dog walk. I'm a professional dog walker at the moment, so I walk a dog twice a week. That's my chill time. And when I'm walking the dog, I don't do anything. I literally just switch off.
Good.
And other than that, I've got my 5 hours of chess, 5 hours of knitting, and 5 like fitness days, which I just do the ring fit right
so
now.
your calendar is like blocked out every single day with everything you're gonna do, basically.
Yeah, I'm almost like embarrassingly kind of like Elon Musk-esque, because I heard that
I'm very much there with you.
Yeah, I feel like his calendar is blocked up by minutes. Like I think every 5 minutes it's like planned out properly for him. But at the moment for me, like freelancing and stuff, I can't physically do that. But my free time is very much blocked up, and I love cooking, so I will cook like 3 meals a day. I bake like a shit ton. But other than that, I will specifically, if I have an hour break, I'll be like, okay, this is where I can knit.
Right. Okay. I get it. I've got a question actually, which I don't want to make it like personal, so obviously don't go into any personal stuff here as such. But one thing that's not discussed a lot in esports actually, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do with these chats really, is just like just go beyond the usual shit as much as possible. Is like balancing like a relationship actually with like chasing after like a dream when you work a lot. Like so I'm not saying I'm in anything because I'm trying to keep some sort of private life. But maybe I have recently gotten to something and I'm like trying to work. Maybe I'm not saying that.
Why have you not told me?
No. I'm keeping my private life private. I'm just saying like, I can talk to you privately.
You can tell me after.
Yeah. But it just made me think hypothetically, allegedly, that like, it's never really discussed, like balancing really going after something, like really going for it to the point where like you're focusing on yourself a lot and what you're doing with like the attention someone else needs and this like reciprocating the support they give you and such like. And obviously you two are both in the position where like you're really going after something right now, him or like in Valorant obviously, and hopefully they get signed soon, by the way. I haven't seen that there have been, so hopefully that's the case, because I can't imagine like being an unsigned team in like a new game is great for stability. But nonetheless, like, and you're also obviously, as you say, you've got a long road ahead in your own eyes in terms of like where you want to be doing what you're doing. So like, how the hell does that work? Like that can't be easy. It must be like just like an ongoing like balancing act that requires constant effort. That's the only way I've kind of the conclusion I've come to.
I'm very lucky. I'm actually super open about this, by the way. There's no such thing as a personal question when it comes to me. I will literally talk for England about anything.
Right.
No shame. So I'm very lucky right now that I've been in, I would say, 3 serious relationships in my life, not counting like, you know, when you're 16 you go out for like 6 months or whatever. One of the actually 4 serious relationships. 2 of those relationships were toxic to a point where I like it genuinely makes people mad when I tell them like anecdotes of what I had to go through. And it's very much relationships that at the time I didn't see the red flags and I didn't see the signs. And I, believe it or not, there was a time where I was extremely unconfident and extremely like almost like backseat submissive kind of person, that I was never confident, never dependent, never any of that stuff, because of two C words, which I will
two cunts?
Keeping it PG. Yeah.
Two cunts. Oh, we can swear. I'll say
yeah.
it for you. Happily.
I say one of them happened when I was like 18, 19. First serious relationship. You know, you get cheated on, all that stuff. Like, it is what it is. Which did end up having a really profound effect on me, because it like turned into bullying, and I've never really been bullied by like an ex-partner. Like, it was weird. And my second serious relationship was extremely healthy. We were best friends, and I would still consider this person as like a best friend of mine. Just, you know, sometimes it just doesn't work out. Like, I definitely played a part in why things didn't work out, but like, you have to do what's right for you. If you feel like you're in a relationship where you're something's wrong, or you're not in love with a person, even if they are literally the nicest person in the world and your best friend, you shouldn't stay there. Like, I always say this because I've had friends who come to me and go, I feel so shit, like I need to try and say this, I need to try and say this. I'm like, yeah, you do, but at the same time, don't be too hard on yourself if you want to walk away. Like, that is going to happen, and it happens every day, which I'm really sad about, but it happens. Unfortunately, after that relationship, which is, I then got into a relationship where it's funny because it's your old boss's friend, so I'm not going to stay here and talk about him too harshly, but let's just say he broke up with me like 4 days after my grandmother passed away, and told me like, oh, like, you're going to be upset about this in a couple weeks. Like, if I break up with you now, you're not going to be more upset about it now, because you're obviously like kind of upset about your grandma. I was like, okay, cool, thanks. And there was like a copious amount of gaslighting in that relationship I won't go into. He definitely never supported my career, like in the, not even in the slightest. Like, I tried to convince him to like try out some games with me, never happened. He was very judgmental. He did not understand my ambition and did not understand my motivation and what I wanted in life, and would honestly make me feel bad for even like spending money which I earned. So yeah, it was really, really extremely toxic, unhealthy. I didn't see it at the time. And when I got out of that relationship, it was probably one of the worst times of my life, because my grandmother like is probably one of the only people that I genuinely cared about at the time, who was like on the other side of the world. I didn't get to go to her funeral because I was working, as you do, and I had like a week of, I don't really drink, to be honest, I don't drink very much or anything, but I had a week of just like blacked out drunk, didn't know what to do with myself, like seriously in a dark place. And then this douchebag decided to break up with me at that specific moment because it was easier for him. Anyway, so the aftermath of that for me was like insanely difficult, to a point where I never thought I could have a relationship again. I was like, I'm gonna just focus on my career first, focus on me, and then in like 10 years time, when I'm ready to like have a baby or have a relationship, whatever, it'll be fine. But that's why I say like I'm extremely lucky, because in those months I didn't really date, I didn't really do anything. I kind of just chilled, focused on myself, was getting on with life kind of thing. And then I met Jake, who became a really good friend of mine. And obviously at the time he was a vlogger at Excel. So he was in the industry. And my number one rule is I don't date people who I go to, like, I don't date people who was in my class of school. I don't date people who was on my course at uni. In fact, at uni, I went out of my way to date people who like didn't even go to my uni. I don't date anybody from work. I'm super like almost a nun when it comes to that. Like, I've never kissed anybody that my friends have kissed. I've never done any of that. I'm really innocent, like, believe it or not. So when I met Jake, it was like we were really good friends. We were friends for 6-7 months, way before anything like turned romantic. But I was very against it. Like, even when we started to kind of date, I was like, this is not going to work out, because we're both in the same industry. Like you said, it's going to be impossible for me to focus what I want, for him to focus what he wants, and for us to have a normal quote unquote relationship, especially the one I had right after the one I had before. So I was the one that came into it with a lot of doubt and with a lot of like preconceived notions of it's not going to work. And he was kind of like, yo, just chill out. It's fine, let's just see where it goes, who cares, like what's the worst that can happen, kind of thing. But eventually, as we became closer and as we started to actually have to consider how to manage a healthy relationship, it became very apparent that there are aspects of both of our lives that was just so similar that it was almost like a perfect fit. So when I needed support or when I was down about work and stuff, he is very understanding of my position, because he's like, hey, I'm literally a pro player that failed a CSGO. All I know is losing in my life. Like, I've never really been a winner. I've never really been like a big person in esports. I know how you feel. I'm also trying to go pro, which, like, props to him, is much harder than what I'm trying to do. So he's like, yo, I get you, like I understand where you're coming from. Why don't we just work together? Which I'm so against mixing relationship with work, because I feel like it should be very separate. But out of all the projects that we did and we tried together, it's been almost exclusively 100% positive for me. So like, we would film together in terms of like making some Valorant content, just like relaxed jokes content that we're pretty much doing for ourselves. Like, if people watch it, that's cool, but if people don't watch it, we did something creative together that's actually helping both of us to kind of like relax a little bit and also get perspective. And if I need help with like an article that I'm really stuck on, he's like, yo, like, just ask me. Like, I'm literally a pro player. Like, if you don't understand something, ask me. And vice versa, if he has a team issue, I'm also the team manager for his team. So if the team has an issue, I'm like the mother of a team with a 17-year-old and two 18-year-olds, you know, like if they have a problem, I'm right there. I'm like, hey, I can solve this for you because I know what to do. So he doesn't have to worry about it. Same thing as like, because I'm managing him. So I'm dealing with like team offers, I'm dealing with tournament entries, all that stuff that it would stress him out normally. But I'm like, hey, that's nothing for me. Like, that's super easy. Like, you need me to sit there and listen to an offer? No problem. Like, that I don't get stressed about that at all. So we're at this stage of our lives where whatever issues that we're facing outside of our relationship is so conveniently fixed by the other person that when it comes to us maintaining a relationship, like privately, it's very pleasant, and it's something that is kind of constantly evolving and moving along, because as your motivations change, like for example, when he's winning, our dynamics is very different to when he's losing, because when he's losing, I have to be there a lot more for him, as you would. But it's sort of the experience and the understanding of what the other person is going through is actually better because we're in the same boat to a degree. So like when I'm getting loads of criticism about me and stuff, he's like, hey, look at Twitch chat. People are calling me shit. People are saying I'm dog. Like, it happens. Like, it's fine. We can go through it together. But admittedly, I've rarely seen anybody say anything negative about him ever. So I think he's just been nice when he's telling me like, hey, I get it too. But so sorry, I'm getting a really long-winded answer about this, but all I'm saying is like, I just feel so lucky because I have someone in my life who is permanently understanding about anything. Like I said, at first strike, when I was crying in my hotel room in a foreign country where I thought everybody in the UK CS scene hated me, everybody in the UK CS scene wanted me literally dead or raped, or they wanted my partner to lose tomorrow when I was there. Like, Jake was on the phone to me till 4 a.m. when he had a literal best of 3, the biggest match of his career the next day. And he was on the phone with me like, hey, I'm not going to go to sleep until you stop crying. Like, everything's fine. Don't come home. He's like, you do not quit, all this stuff. And I never experienced that in any other relationship. Well, maybe one other relationship, but in my relationship before, I never experienced that. I had someone who told me that esports was like rubbish and it wasn't a real career choice. And so for me, for someone to A, respect what I do to the degree that he does, 2, being literally my biggest cheerleader, and 3, being understanding enough to know that like if I'm interviewing people and if I'm away at an event, I can't be there for him and he's cool with it, like I can't really think of another scenario that's better than that. Like similarly, if he's competing, he's scrimming like 8 hours a day right now. All I do is I make him a smoothie and make him lunch, and we don't really talk to each other until the evening, which is fine. Like that's normal. And neither of us have an issue with that, because like it breaks my heart when I see people's partners have an issue with them just working. Like and obviously there's a line, right? Like if you're working 23 hours a day, I think you're kind of taking the piss. You probably shouldn't be in a relationship.
That's what ruined my relationships in the past.
Oh, because you were working too much.
Yes, it was when I was like just starting out.
Yeah.
So
you see, even when I'm working 7 days a week, which I still do, like Jake does never have an issue with it. He's just like, he's like, okay, well, if you're working, can you at least sit next to me when you're writing your article? That's all he can. He's like, can you just come in and sit next to me? Because I don't really mind if we can't talk. And I'm like, yeah, we're working from home. Like, it's easy.
Yeah.
But also the weird thing is that we've only been together for 1.5 years, but because we've lived together since March, every single second of every single day, there's been like a couple of times where I've broken down and been like, fuck, get out of my face. I don't want to look at you. You're pissing me off. But 95% of the times it's like really sped our relationship up, because I feel like after 1.5 years, normally when I'm with someone, we're not this close. Like I'm not close enough to live with you after 1.5 years, like no way. But we kind of moved in together after 10 months. I think it was really quick. But when you live together and see someone every single second of your day, like it does change things. And that's the other thing I would say, like if you don't, like living with someone is so different to being in a relationship with someone. So if you're like in a position where you work in esports and you want to move in with someone, you have to consider like what that means for the other person, especially if they don't work in esports, because
like they're not going to understand if they're in a traditional industry.
Exactly, because when I'm gaming and stuff in my old relationship, in the one relationship I had, which was healthy, he also loved League of Legends. So it was great. But in my last relationship where this person didn't understand anything about gaming, it like made me feel guilty that I was doing something I like. And if that starts happening, I honestly think it's like not worth it. But that's the weird thing, because I still would recommend dating outside of the industry. Like I still really like big time advocate for that, because I do think I just got lucky. Like I was so lucky. But finding someone who's understanding about that outside the industry, like good luck. But I'm sure there is someone out there. Like, you know, I mean, plenty of people do it. Like a lot of people in the industry have partners outside of gaming, like I've seen. It's probably rare to have people that sustain a relationship in gaming, but yeah, you should have saved this topic for another podcast.
Well, I didn't know I was getting a full relationship history, but I mean, I appreciate the chat nonetheless, you know.
It needed the context, because I always have to reiterate, like I got so lucky. Like honestly, I didn't know what I did in my previous life, but thank you. Yeah, I would always say that. And I know some people like really hate it when I'm vocal about this kind of stuff, like on my Twitter or whatever. I never tweet anyway, but when I do tweet, it is 90% times about Jake. But I live with him. Like he's the only person I interact with during the pandemic. But yeah, you'll never see me say anything negative publicly about like this relationship or anything like that. But again, that's awesome. Very, very lucky. Yeah.
Hypothetically, like I would be very grateful for somebody if I found somebody outside of the industry, and I would think that would be a much better way of going about things if I was to ever get into anything, which I would of course never do.
But where do you sit on like online dating? Because I feel like a boomer, because I didn't really do that much. I did a little bit of it, but like
I'd never do it.
Oh yeah, okay. No. Well then how would you like? What kind of advice would you give to someone in gaming?
I can't be giving relationship advice. This is not
how would you find someone if you didn't use apps and stuff? Because I feel like in esports it's so rampant.
Are you classing like Tinder or something as online dating? If like say if like you match with them and then like you meet them the next day, is that you've online dating?
Oh yeah, I guess so. Because I used Bumble like a little bit, but I didn't use it very much.
Concept.
No, Hinge. I use Hinge a little bit. But not, I think maybe only twice. But yeah.
If that's classed as online dating, then I mean, I don't think there's any harm in it. I personally think like you can either go about it two ways. Is like get to know them really well beforehand. But I think like the beauty in getting to know someone is like actually doing it in person. Like, but you kind of want to weed them out a bit as well. So it kind of helps with like the online profiles and such, because you can kind of see like our interests align or don't align.
What's
or
your
you can
Tinder
kind of,
bio?
I don't have Tinder.
Oh, what's your Bumble bio? Whatever it
I
is.
don't have any online app. I have no need for one.
Oh.
I have no need for one. I wonder, what was it last time I had it? I can't even remember, but I don't know if I'd admit it on this right now anyway.
Oh yeah, no,
because it's too good. It's like a cheat code. It's just instant.
Oh really?
Yeah. And I don't condone cheating in games, you know.
Not gonna lie, I had like what I like my occupation and stuff, and like I support Palace, so I support Palace everywhere. Like if you look at my Twitter and stuff, and I had so many douchebags message me being like, oh, if you really support Palace, like who was the goal scorer in the
Oh, yeah.
1942 like Division 2 on September
You
23rd?
can't be
I'm
a
like,
woman and like sports.
kidding me? Yeah, it happens.
Oh, by the way, I'm
It
working for
happens.
Sky Sports, but no,
Yeah,
I know
yeah.
nothing about Palace.
It happens to gaming as well. Like if I put like, and someone would be like, what's your favorite game? I'm like this. They're like, oh yeah, but what rank are you for this, what that? And I'm like, can't I just like something?
Yeah.
Like,
No, not
just
at all.
calm
Like
down.
we're in a, like, especially with the internet, we're at a point where it's like everyone either doesn't do it at all or feel like they have to be the best. Like people are not satisfied with just being good anymore. And like there's so much opportunity at just being good, especially like business or something actually. So I think a lot of people don't start something if they don't think they can be the immediate best at it. But the best way to actually do that is just like create your own market. So like you take like two markets that existed that are not usually conflated at all, bring them together, and you're instantly one of the top at it. But I mean, I'll get more into that one day.
That's
Not this
really
time.
good. That's really good advice.
Oh,
Though.
it's
Like, yeah.
like if you like pick something that only you are good at, like if you have like unique, like we're all the best at being ourselves, right? So if you pick like your unique blend of interests and proficiencies and stuff, like no one can fuck with you at all. And if it's something you're really interested in, like it's not really going to feel like work too much. So if anyone wants to try and compete with you, they have to work so fucking hard unless they have also the exact same interests and competencies, which is basically impossible. So like they're gonna have to work overtime to even try and match where you're doing it for playing for fun. So it's just not gonna happen. So I that's my kind of advice, I guess, in like content creation and esports as well.
Preach,
with
queen.
anything. But anyway, I've taken up a lot of your time.
That's all right. I just talk a lot.
I appreciate you being open. I mean, I it's not too often that people are, especially in these kind of settings, you know. And like Jake Lucky, like he was the least open person of all time. It's still a good chat, but like he operated in a very different way, you know. And I'm trying to work out where I sit on stuff because I'm a very open person. Like you know, you can like DM me on Twitter and I will answer anything, no matter what it is. But like I'm trying to work out like how much of my personal life I want to put on.
Oh yeah, I again
platforms now. It's difficult.
That's not something I'd also advise. I think for me and Jake, like it was kind of inevitable.
You're both just in the public kind of sphere in esports.
But also we're both very creative people. So like there'll be times where he's like, oh, Phil, me do this, it'd be hilarious on Twitter. I'll be like, all right, go on then. So like with that aspect, we're very public about it. But in terms of like our actual relationship, I think if I had it my way, actually, we didn't go public about our relationship for 4 months. We didn't tell anybody. We didn't tell like our parents. We didn't tell friends, nothing, because we wanted to make sure like, because
it was solid first.
At this point, like if we went public at this point and we break up like in a horrific way, it's just not something I want to deal with. Like it's just a drama for other people, but it's actually my life. So we waited 4 months before we even said anything to like family. And I think we went public on social media on New Year's Eve last year because we were drunk. Yeah, I was like, let's just do it. Let's tell everybody we're together. But yeah, also like, I don't know if you're ever gonna get this, especially if you go public with your stuff, but like
I don't have anything to go public with, you know.
But like some people just weren't very nice to me, which I was really sad about. Like, I don't know, like Jake is not even famous or anything, so I don't know why people care. So random people would sort of DM me or comment on my pictures, like quite mean things just because I'm dating him. Which I feel weird. I'm like, it's not like I'm not dating like Chris Hemsworth.
As in people like being jealous so that you're with him and they're not.
Yeah, like
really?
I multiple times I've had people, fans of his DM me being like, by like trying
You're not good enough for him.
Yeah, and like what's even weirder is like I had this one message which was so creepy of this girl that messaged him and was like, hey, not sure if you remember me, but we met at this event, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, sorry, I'm really sorry I don't remember you. Like, what do you want? And then she started just being really weird, like kind of like suggesting that they were dating, and then messaged me about it as well. And I was like, who are you? Like, why are you trying to break us up? This is so weird. It happened 2 or 3 times actually. It happened a lot with this one other girl who, like, under every single photo I would post, she would be like, you're fucking ugly, like every single photo without fail.
Christ.
Yeah. And it was like a couple weeks after we went public. So like I never met this girl had never posted any of my stuff before. And then 2 weeks after we went public, she went through like all my photos and stuff. It was so weird. But it was weird for me because I was like, he has what, like 3,000 followers on Twitter. Like, why are people like this?
Like little, he's a micro influencer or something, right? Like everyone's got their own level of influence now. Everyone's a brand on Twitter.
Yeah, I'm like, and he looks about 18, and he's really camp.
Is he not 18?
No, he's 25, Adam. He's 25.
Oh shit! I'm only a tiny bit older than him. Oh damn. That's
26 in May. 26.
Okay, well, I didn't actually think. I don't think you'd actually go for an 18-year-old, but like, yeah, he has like. Whereas I'm like 26 and look 36. He's like aged the other way.
No, but you could be 25 or 35. Like, you're one of those people that it's hard to tell, which is a good thing, because you don't want to be him.
But do I want to look 35?
Yeah, I think so. I think your 30s will be nicer than your 20s. I feel like, not you specifically, but in general. I'm
thinking like, you know, like Patrick Stewart and such, like they just look the same age for so long because like they're bald, like you don't see the hair disappear, any of that stuff. I'm just thinking maybe I'll look this way until I'm like 37 and then I'll start going grey a bit. So like if I could just maintain like this, then it would look like I've aged really well, even though now I feel like I've aged poorly, you know.
I actually think it might happen. I don't think you've aged poorly, to be fair. I mean, yeah, for sure.
I can show you a picture of me when I was 16 and you would not believe it's me.
Oh, really?
With like long curly hair and stuff, yes.
Don't have a beard. To be fair, you can grow a beard, so that's like miles ahead of most people already.
Yeah,
anyway,
that's true.
We're kind of going off track, but
these conversations for us anyway, innit? Let's do it. But yeah, we'll end it here, and then I will tell you something straight after this. Just so you don't feel like I've hidden anything from you.
Looking forward to it.
And also, just to wrap up with something nice, like I'm really looking forward to seeing what you do next. I don't have a clue what that is because you're freelancing, like you're here, there, and everywhere. I hope you get more riot work if that's what you want. But like you've shown that you're proficient in everything that you're doing, and that's quite rare. Like I could not go into all 3 of those things. Like I'm like good at writing, pretty shit at video, but like fuck it, whatever. Like I can hold a conversation, so that's fine. Like I'm not like looking into the camera and smiling all the time and stuff. And like actually hosting an event is something nobody would ever want. That like me moderating a panel is pretty bad enough. So like the fact that you're really good at all of them, like you've got a really bright future in the industry.
Oh, thank you. That's so nice.
Like whether you think you deserve any sort of award or not, like you're gonna be like the gold standard of what a lot of people look up to for years to come if you decide to stick in esports. So just crack on.
I mean, just to round off, I think my goal is like, it sounds so like virtue signaling, but it is genuinely my goal, is to make sure that in 10 years time, when another person like me that might look like me or sound like me or is a woman, whatever, is coming through, that they don't have to go through anything that I went through because I proved everybody wrong. Like that's the goal I want to go to. Awesome. Like eventually I just want people stop DMing me saying like, hey, you're a woman in the scene, like I've just received this kind of, hey, how do I deal with it? Like I don't want to see that anymore. I don't want to get to a point where in 10 years time that people come through like me would just happy and would be able to enjoy some kind of environment where people like me have just kind of like absorbed it all and sort of gotten rid of it, because one day people would just stop hating people for the way they look.
I'm trying to do that with straight white males as well. I think my challenge is a lot harder.
Great job. You're doing a great job, Adam.
Thank you so much. That's so bad. Anyway, if people want to subscribe, they can do so. I'm not going to ask you to click the notification bell because I don't actually know what that is really. I've never
click the notification bell. Follow Adam Fitch on Twitter. Man's just been verified.
Are you
subscribe. Verified? No, I'm not. I'm really sad. There'll be a video here if you want to check out more content. And,
oh my God. I'm going to use you in every video now. I'm just calling out everything.
And yeah, drop a comment as well. Let us know what you thought.
There we go. That's it. Done. Thank you very much. That's why you're better than me at this stuff. Shit, I need to get better. Thank you everyone for watching. Cheers.